Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Season 10, Round 6 of VSR Phoenix, live exclusively on TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark. You join us here at the season midway of Season 10, just before the end of our 2025 leg, as you join us from the land down under, right here at the iconic Mount Panorama Circuit. Founded in 1938, consisted of 23 turns and 6.2 kilometres, or otherwise 3.8 miles of FIA Grade 3. In its 87-year lifespan, this fantastic venue and a real epicenter of Australian motorsports has hosted not only the Australian Grand Prix until 1958 for Formula 1, but also for motorcycle Grand Prix racing until 1988. In the modern day, it hosts the Bathurst 12-hour and the Bathurst 1000 as its two largest events on the calendar year. Right now, though, it finds us as the placing point for the season midway of Season 10. And getting a look at where we are after 6 rounds of competition having been covered, we find ourselves with Tyler Vermaak leading by a loosely held 8-point margin over White Doctor in second place. Elite Cassie down to third after the last round in Zandvoort, with VSR Chris in pursuit now. 188 points puts him in a cemented fourth place. VSR Otzi solidifies his position in the top 5 right now, giving himself ample distance there, 18 points up the road from Region in 6th place. Bully Boy in 7th, with VSR Grids in 8th place with 142 points. That's the closest margin of any two drivers in the top 10 right now, with Smiler with 126 points in 9th. We find the Blue Frog finally making a mark inside of the top 10 for the championship standings after round 5 of the championship back in Zandvoort. Looking at the calendar, you'll find this is our second from last stop as we get on to the topic of qualifying almost immediately. A lot to break down in the next 20 or so minutes. We see the grid already lively with quite a few drivers scrambling to make their way out. First among them is White Doctor, who's not far off the chances of leading the championship on the track record he's been on. More on that in a moment's time. Looking at that calendar then, heading into round 6 of the championship, we find ourselves here at the season midway with 5 more rounds coming up in 2026, making for a 12-round calendar. So we find ourselves not only on the second to last stop of racing here in 2025, but also the exact marking point of the middle of season 10. And right now it's giving clear progress indicators for White Doctor to once again fight for a championship here. Bear in mind, he was the season 8 champion in his fight against Just Boris so many seasons ago. Could he be finding himself in a new fight with the current championship leader Tyler Vermaak? Well, having a look at the previous wins over the last 5 rounds, we've seen that he now comprises 3 of that 5 winning positions at the moment, with Elite Cassie winning in round 2, Tyler Vermaak taking his first and only in season 10 in round 4. White Doctor otherwise having dominated in the 54 BMW, a very menacing sight on the grid, especially into season 10. We see though a little bit antsy on his way down through Skyline Hill, so we'll get on that in a moment's time for the full rundown of the track. Before we do, getting a look at the balance of performance for today's race. Ferrari find themselves best in house with a 17 kilo reduction. That's ahead of Porsche with 12 kilos shed off. Nissan loses 10 kilos with BMW losing 7. Bentley and McLaren gaining 8, and then 20 kilos heading in for the Ford Performance team here in Bathurst. Looking at the qualifying predictions, Fake Galaxy predicted at pole position. There you can see the margins between himself and Tyler Vermaak sit at about 610 thousandths of a second. That's 6 tenths and a hundredth there. Between the front row, VSR Chris 3rd with JDM Grizz 4th, Mr. Bernie in 5th, JDM Otzi 6th, GTR Antion in 7th, GTR Twiglet in 8th, Wishful Winnings in 9th, and JDM Shawnee Mac in the top 10. Let's see if we can catch on board then with the 54s. We cut away here very quickly to see what was going on for Zetsu in the pit lane. We stay on board though with White Doctor, who's currently 2nd in the championship. He's down towards turn 1 then, and here's our unofficial tour of the Mount Panorama Circuit, otherwise Bathurst. We head out of Hell Corner then on the run up the mountain straight now. Major overtaking opportunity right off the bat as we exit turn 1. A good run uphill here, and a car more oriented to straight line speeds like the BMW, and also to keep in mind as well the Ford to be ample sights towards the front of the grid today. We'll find opportunities to get side by side down here at turn 2 heading into Griffin's Bend. Now up towards the cutting, and we'll get over the dash cam view here for the 54 of White Doctor, because this is where the track really does narrow up in through turns 3 and 4 at the cutting. Now for the run uphill in through Quarry, turn 5. Then loops into turn 6. You can see the nose stabbing around there on the 54. White Doctor struggling for grip as he makes his way uphill. Now out through Frog Hollow into Reed Park. Then up round there, you can see Reed Park, the Wall of Death on the right-hand side into McPhillamy. Actually, I should say it was out of Solomon Park, then round the Wall of Death, then to McPhillamy, into Brock Skyline. On the drop downhill then through turns 11, 12 and 13 into the S's. Very, very easy for one's race to come apart here. One hit with the wall can ping-pong the car across both walls, ultimately dealing a lot more damage in the long run. Out through Forest's Elbow then, turn 18 and 19. With 19 here, that slight kink to the left to give us the run down 1.9 kilometers here of FIA grade 3 on the Conrod straight. This is where the drivers will be seeing speeds in excess of 150 miles per hour on their way down towards the chase. This will be absolutely flat out, very nearly up into that top end for these drivers as they make their way out through turn 20 down towards the chase here. Major overtaking opportunity, heavy on the brakes for the 54 of White Doctor. On his way currently out through turn 21 and 22 on the exit of the chase. Used to be called the Caltex Chase after the petrol company of the same name. And towards Murray's Corner, then turn 23. And it really does come at you thick and fast here at Bathurst. Down towards the line then, the 54 across the line to become the first time on the charts at 201.272. From behind him there, the 98 of Elite Cassie, now clad in the livery of, if I'm not mistaken, Emil Frey Racing, Verstappen.com in the 98 there. Across the line now, pushed out of line, both him and White Doctor. As the new presence there, the 55 of Fake Galaxy still gunning for his first ever race victory. Missed out on his chances in Zandvoort and then back in the circuit of the Americas. So he's still gunning for gold here. And the 55 has a great chance of doing so, as we saw indicated on those qualifying predictions. JDM Grizz, fourth fastest. JDM Otzi in fifth. To the line next comes the number 4, another Nissan to the block here. The number 4 of JDM Shawnee Max, sixth there for a 4, 5 and 6 for Nissan. A manufacturer that once dominated here in Bathurst back in its time in the Group A category of the Australian Touring Car Championships back when it was the Nissan Skyline R32. Well, this model, the R35, is the last of its kind here, as Nissan announces they aren't making an R36. Oh, all three of these drivers just got shoved down a peg, as across the line a moment ago went the number 89, Tyler Vermack, to third fastest to give us a Ford BMW Ford top 3. Can see as well in chat at the moment that Regent trying to make small talk with us, because of course we know both he and the Blue Frog, in spite of the benefit Ferrari will get under BOP and the detriment Bentley will see under BOP, neither of them are likely to make those times on the charts. Again, as per tradition there, you can see very narrowly avoiding the 44 of JDM Grizz. We're on board with the 61, and dare I say, is he going to go the full 9 yards? So in the chat, Regent asks, and whilst we've got the opportunity to stay on board with this one, he does ask apple or orange juice. Simple answer, orange juice. Next question. Regent suggesting in chat as well that the Blue Frog might not be going for a valid time. Well, there's your evidence that he absolutely isn't going for a valid time at all, as he just tucked 2 wheels there onto the grass, invalidating his time. The 98 next to the line will quickly catch on here with Elite Cassie across the line. He goes from 4th place and stays there behind Tyler Vermack. Bear in mind, we've still got a decent wad of time to play with in this session. Fake Galaxy extends the margins over pole position to 0.4 of a second. The number 6 across the line. And here comes JDM Otzi. Now, to note a recent change here, the number 28, this is VSR Chris, now going by his full name, Chris Davies. And he's just been pushed down to 7th place by Bully Boy, otherwise Mr. Bernie. Into 6th place goes the 196. The number 4 nearest the line will catch back on board with Shawnee Mac. Then we'll be catching on with the 89 of Tyler Vermack nearest to the line after the number 4 Nissan. He stays 9th place. What's going to be the calling card here for the 89 Mustang of Tyler Vermack? Currently holds on to a very powerful second row position. He'll be alongside Elite Cassie by where it stands at the moment. But across the line, he's not content with that at all. Puts himself into 2nd place, and then more poignantly, you can see, is within hundredths of a second to pole position. So a Ford 1-2 right now here in Bathurst has already kicked off a very exciting qualifying session. The 504 next to the line from behind. It's Eurofighter, otherwise Timo, on his way to the line from 16th and stays there. What appears to be an invalid time. GTR Antion making his way out of the chase in the number 1 Porsche. Heading down towards the line, then we go out through turn 23. Into 8th fastest there, so not too bad at all. Now, looking briefly back into the BOP statistics. Now, the only slight irregularity we had was for that of Porsche. It might actually be slightly different on race day as to what Porsche's getting, but our last record indicated 12 kilos off of that 992. You can see he has found himself in that top 50% right now, actually sitting dead on the 50% mark. So he is sort of straddling the fence there between the top and bottom 50%, but it's still a great start, all things considered, for the number 1. He finds himself currently now tucked in behind GTR Twiglet, who most recently moved up to 8th. The 55 next to the line. So what's the extending mark here for Fake Galaxy? It was hundredths. Now it's tenths again as he puts 10 times the amount of pressure over Tyler Vermack there. What became 3 hundredths became 3 tenths in the blink of an eye, and then some. 3.5 tenths for the 55 over the 89. 61 nearest to the line. And of course, we know that the Blue Frog doesn't appear to be gunning for a valid flying lap. As we see the 61 across the line, he's still out on track and still lapping around, just not putting times on the charts. They're still looking to start from the back of the field alongside the 420, as what has come to be a sort of a tradition amongst those two, a ritual, as it were, over the course of Season 10. And we've seen they've had quite a few exhilarating drives. Of course, both of them are now in the top 10 in the championship, with the Blue Frog most recently having made his way up to 10th. See another driver who's in the top 10 both in this qualifying session and in the championship, only off of 6th place by 7 hundredths of a second, is Bully Boy, otherwise Mr. Bernie, in the 196, and he's been a very compelling story over the course of Season 10. We'll see what he can do here in the land down under on what looks to be a primarily front engine dominated grid at the moment. We're seeing the only real outliers to this rule inside of that top 10 come out of 3rd and 9th place. Elite Cassie with the mid-engine Ferrari and GTR Ancion with the rear-engined Porsche. I do quite like the curious questions I get sometimes in the Twitch chat here. Regent asking, if I were to hand you, I was going to put blank here, blank's credit card, and which series of motorsport would you follow around the world for a season, any category? Oh, it had to be the World Rally Championship. I wouldn't be happy about using his credit card, but at the same time, if it was a hypothetical, the World Rally Championship. I really have been wanting to go to a WRC event for some time. So we find ourselves just over the halfway of qualifying. Fake Galaxy having a little spot of bother there on his way out to the chase. Still finds himself atop the timing charts here halfway through qualifying, with Tyler Vermack just leaving the pit lane for another run of flying laps. He's off by 3 tenths of a second, actually 3.5 tenths of a second, and then just by over half a second we find Elite Cassie in 3rd place up the road from White Doctor, who's off by 2 tenths of a second to the front of that second row. Then in 5th place, Chris Davies, otherwise VSR Chris, in the number 28, finds himself in 5th up the road from JDM Greers in 6th place, Bully Boy in 7th, Twiglet 8th, Antion 9th, and Oatsy in the top 10. Shawnee Mac in 11th place, Eurofighter in 12th, with Dollar Up in 13th, Zetu in 14th, the Blue Frog down in 15th with no time set, same as Zetu there, and that's the same story for Regent, Big Green Man, and GTR Smiler. Good evening to everyone joining us in chat here, and we're just over that halfway into the qualifying session right now, with Fake Galaxy still leading the timing charts. White Doctor is gunning for an improvement right now. We see him out on track on his way through Quarry. And for the Season 8 champion, is he looking to become the 2nd ever multiple-time champion after Chris Davies, otherwise VSR Chris, did in Season 3 and Season 6 of VSR Phoenix? Now, we've seen his first championship in what was a rather controversial bout between himself and the defending Season 7 champion, Just Boris, all the way back in Season 8 some time ago. Looking up here on the last run of championship winners, you can see here from Season 1 all the way to Season 9, the history of VSR Phoenix's various championship winners. And it is a very exciting prospect to see White Doctor back in competitive form, only separate from Tyler Vermack by a meager 8-point difference heading into Bathurst. Now, this is an exceptionally exciting situation to find ourselves in, because both White Doctor and Tyler Vermack we've seen already to be very strong, very capable talents here in Bathurst. Back in MSC, when we were covering some rounds on and off of Season 2, we got to watch Tyler Vermack dominate the grid to a win in Bathurst. For White Doctor, we have seen he is a very strong talent here in VSR Phoenix. We've also seen his efforts over on the XCL Pro Series, where he competes for the 5-star esports team with Aston Martin. So for the 54, right now he finds himself heading to the line from 4th place. Across the line he goes, and it was an overall improvement at 201.242 on his last lap, but not enough to shove him out of 4th place and up to 3rd. Bear in mind, he needs to make 2 tenths of a second on the car ahead. Now you can see the gap actually sits almost dead level to it. So very bizarre stuff between himself and Cassie. Whether or not he is exactly down to the 1,000th on his personal best so far, I mean, that really does go quite some distance to explain the precision on display from drivers like the 54 of White Doctor, and also drivers around him there. So Elite Cassie up in 3rd, Tyler Vermack 2nd, and Fake Galaxy in 1st. Chris Davies behind in 5th, and Big Green Man there just recently up to 6th place. Looking to who is nearest to the line, it was the 61, but as we know already, the Blue Frog isn't looking to put lap times in qualifying. He will be starting from the back again, so as he makes his way into the pit lanes, there's no times up for grabs there out of the Bentley. This could be one of the more difficult rounds, I would say, for the Bentley, as rather conversely, unlike Ferrari, who has got one heap of an advantage coming into today's balance of performance, Bentley do find themselves in a very rare case of actually having gained weight coming into this round of the championship. 8 kilos on the Continental. We see Elite Cassie to the line then with half a second to spare between himself and Fake Galaxy, but doesn't make a single budge forward there on his efforts to get up to second place. Reluctantly so. He's got 6 minutes left to play for. Functionally about 3 laps, give or take, there before the end of qualifying. So he makes his way up the mountain straight. We'll catch on with him in due course. Across the line a moment ago, we've got a whole swarm of cars, among them the 44 on that grid as well. JDM Grizz across the line there to 6th place. The 32 and the 89 also in pursuit, so Tyler Vermack to the line here and does bring the gap down lower, now 0.2 of a second between himself and Fake Galaxy, so the chances are there for Vermack perhaps to really dig deep on the next couple of laps here and challenge for pole position. Let's be realistic here. It has been a very strong session for Fake Galaxy. Where things have gone wrong before for the 55 has been on the race itself, so he's not going to be looking to chain the mistakes forth that he's had in the last 2 races over in Zandvoort, and then looking further back on the calendar, back at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, back on November 26th when he made his debut. Could it be 3rd time's the charm here for Fake Galaxy? There is absolutely a lot of promise following behind this newcomer to the grid. We've already seen that despite his new status amongst this grid, this one is a very clear and defined veteran. By the way that he drives, by the way that he commands that car, we are in the presence here of an emerging pro on our radars, one that has previously slipped under the radar here on TRTN for some time, so it is quite an exciting prospect to see out of that 55. 4.5 minutes left to go. Let's catch on board with the nearest cars to the line. Right now we have 2 of them heading down through the chase, but one folded there out through the chase itself. That was the 61 of the Blue Frog, and actually was netting a little bit of free slipstream by looks of it to this one here, the number 98 of Elite Cassie, on his way down to Murray's, heading to the line here. From 3rd place, can he make a mark over Tyler Vermack's time? Not this time around, so still with 2 more laps to play for. Cassie is sort of clutching at straws here in qualifying. He might have to settle for 3rd place on the grid for the time being and start to strategize how he can get the leg up over the 2 Fords ahead of him. Bear in mind, he is very much so behind enemy lines here, as the only of 2 cars inside of this top 10 not to be a front-engined GT3. Moreover, inside of that top 5, he's the only car to be manufactured by Ferrari. He is firmly behind enemy lines here amongst the territory of the straight line kings BMW and Ford. So we see here actually with BMW and Ford, both Tyler Vermack and White Doctor on their way to the lines. Now, what we can see here out of Vermack is a little bit more relaxed on the exit of the chase. Down towards the line he goes. Was it a flying lap? Didn't look to be the case, but for White Doctor, it was. And you can see these two now separated by 0.003 of a second after that last lap just gone. So all to play for that front row right now. The case is, can either of these two lodge a fight capable to challenge Fake Galaxy? Well, we had the question answered there with a 2 minutes .117. The answer very firmly no. As now well over half a second out, these two will be having a scrap amongst themselves. Fake Galaxy now up to the fastest time of the session and then some. Chances looking very likely here for Galaxy's first win, but he's got to try and remember not to make the same mistakes that have been plaguing him over the last 2 rounds of the championship. Strategy was his downfall at the Circuit of the Americas, and then other troubles emerged on his run through Zandvoort. Can it be the case this time around, as we're back on to the hour-long format with 1 mandatory pit stop, that he can finally get it 3rd time's the charm? That's the real question for him, but we'll see in due course how that pans out for him. Right now, he has a very confident lead of this qualifying session. We see for Tyler Vermack, we just saw out through McPhillamy Park in towards Brock Skyline. On his trails there, not far from him, is the 54. Looming in the distance there, that dark royal purple number 54 BMW of White Doctor. These two sparring for what remains of the podium. 0.003 of a second between the pair on their way out through forests. See, joining us in chat there as well, 5-star Doc joining us for this race, among several other drivers we've seen before as well. Sim Racing Hodek and TTV Regent. 2 minutes left to go then, so we are in the end of times for this qualifying session. Happy days are at an end, my friend. And as we see here, down towards the chase, Tyler Vermaak is still looking for his chances of pole position. Bear in mind, he has got an ever-present sight of that 54 on his tail, making his way out through the chase, down towards Murray's to comment on as well. Looking in that top 5, you are looking at quite a confident top 5 position right now. We've got, in the span of it, 3 championships condensed into that top 5. We see opening the taps up is Tyler Vermaak to now within 3, actually just under 4/10 of a second off of Fake Galaxy's time, and it was no budge there for the 54 of White Doctor. So this is his one and only chance now before the end of qualifying to make a mark here and potentially challenge for second place off of Tyler Vermaak. The closest gap they've had so far was 3,000. You can see it is anything but that heading into the final chapter of qualifying here in round 6 of season 10. Looking to where the nearest car is to the line right now, we'll be looking over towards the number 96 of GTR Twiglet. He's on the exit of Forest's Elbow, on his way now out through turn 19 as the cameras readjust. We're up the Conrod straight here as he's flat out in that BMW. Currently in 11th place, you can see the margins that sit between himself and JDM Otzi, who represents the last of those top 10 positions. A great position to be starting in there on that 5th row. Is really not too wide at all. Taking a look there, it's about 18 thousandths of a second, I should say. 18 thousandths of a second between those two for 10th place alone, so very close margins still at play throughout the field. And having retired to the pit lane now at the end of qualifying, content with what he's done so far, Fake Galaxy looks to take home pole position. We'll see though, Twiglet to the line and just beaten to the clock there. He's got one more opportunity to challenge as he couldn't find any space on the last lap just gone. The number 196 crossed the line a moment ago. Bully Boy in 8th as he crosses the line there. Question there and remains out through Hell Corner. Does he call the towel here at the end of qualifying? Doesn't look to be the case. He's back out for another run here in Bathurst before the end of the session. Big Green Man, another Ford Mustang on the grid here, making his way out through the chase. Right now, you can see the gap between himself is 92 thousandths of a second to the car up front. JDM Grizz in 6th place. So looking at a 3rd row start here, perhaps, for this one down towards the line. And it is 6th place right at the very end by a single thousandth of a second between the 42 and the 44. The 89 comes to the line then. Tyler Vermaak sadly couldn't close on pole position. The 54 is in pursuit. Can he take second place? Not this time around. For White Doctor, he'll be 3rd place out of the end of qualifying here. 2 more cars still to the line. The number 96 we saw from earlier on. GTR Twiglet still looking to break into that top 10. The other car still out on track. Currently in 8th place is Bully Boy 96. Otherwise, Mr. Bernie on our records here. It does bode quite a bit of confidence for that number 55. Fake Galaxy on pole position yet again here in VSR Phoenix Season 10, but the chances look even more likely this time around for him to elevate this one to a race win. He's been denied so many times now in his very short tenure in Season 10. We see it's disaster for the 96 right at the very end of qualifying there for GTR Twiglet. A little knock on the exit of turn 18 into turn 19 brought an abrupt end to his final lap. So we catch on board here with Bully Boy, otherwise Mr. Bernie, on his way down the Conrod straight. In towards the chase we go then, and can he make that mark for the position up ahead? It's 103 thousandths of a second between himself and JDM Grizz, so not an awful lot to break through there. But as we've seen throughout this session, it has been very finite margins, very difficult for drivers to make up those positions on a track this complex. Down towards the line we go then. Turn 23. Now towards the line comes the 196. Where will he land at the end of qualifying? It's 6th place, so quite the humble effort there for Bully Boy. We were expecting 7th, but he denies Big Green Man that 3rd row start and takes it for his very own. I'll have that right off you. Thank you very much, says Mr. Bernie. Well, as you have it there, 6th place at the end of qualifying. And had it been a slightly longer session, he could have challenged for a top 5 start. You can see the margins between himself and Chris Davies at the end of qualifying there sit at about 25 thousandths of a second. So very, very close stuff right to the very end of qualifying for Season 10, Round 6. Sadly, with no articles of news to discuss, we do find ourselves sort of twiddling our thumbs, waiting for how things are going to pan out on that grid. We'll be seeing the lineup for the grid in due course. You can see the results at the end of qualifying there, but we'll recount the full grid standings in a moment's time. You can see very close margins, and the closest among them, the elephant in the room, that fight for 7th place. Big Green Man versus JDM Grizz, a single thousandth of a second dividing 2 positions up there. looking at that calendar once again before we get onto the grid. Of course, we're in for an hour of racing to follow here in Bathurst with one mandatory pit stop on the marks. That'll be for this round 6 of the championship. And that next race coming up is really quite daunting. 2 hours of racing coming up in the Grand Prix Circuit Kyalami with 2 mandatory pit stops. That's set to be the longest race of the season. So very, very excited to see how that one pans out. It's going to be quite a complex running of things. We've only got a limited data set when it comes to Kyalami, but in the short times we have been to Midrand, South Africa, it has been a fantastic offering for any calendar. So we'll be seeing how it fares here in Season 10 next week. That'll be the last race for us here on 2025. Then 5 more rounds to follow in 2026. As we head into next week, we'll be discussing in detail on the next live stream coming for VSR Phoenix on what that second half of the championship is going to look like. We're here at the season midway, so that second half will be discussed quite a lot there over the course of next weekend on next week, I should say, on December 17th. Well, looking at the grid for round 6 of the championship, Fake Galaxy back onto pole position, and right alongside him, it's a Ford 1-2 here in Bathurst for Tyler Vermack. Hang on, I had a bit of a strange notification come through there. No idea. You know what? Just completely ignore that. Did not happen. You didn't hear it, so I didn't hear it. Fake Galaxy on pole position with Tyler Vermack in second place. White Doctor in third in the number 54 BMW. A great hustle for the Season 8 champion right at the very end of qualifying to get himself up the road on that second row alongside Elite Cassie in the 98 Ferrari 296. Chris Davies, otherwise VSR Chris, rounds out the top 5 with Bully Boy in 6th place. Big Green Man in 7th. So 6th and 7th as well as 1st and 2nd all occupied in by Ford on the 8th position there. Just at the back of the 4th row, JDM Grizz for Nissan. Furthest up the order of the 3 Nissans competing in this race. Further down the line in 9th place, starting that 5th row, GTR Antion in the number 1 Porsche, and then alongside him another Nissan in 10th place, JDM Oatsy in the number 6. Outside of the top 10 then in 11th we have Twiglet, then Eurofighter in 12th, Shawnee Mac in 13th, Smiler in 14th, Dollar Up 15th, Zetu in 16th, and then at the back row there on the 9th row, Blue Frog and Regent. As always, the daring duo, the Bentley and the Ferrari. It seems to be a tale as old as time then for those two, starting from the back once again. So a little bit of an awkward silence there as we were just having a sip of our drink, but this is going to be quite an exciting one. Bathurst is a very unique venue in my perspective. I've found that a lot of drivers don't tend to avoid Bathurst out of preference or avoid it out of hatred. This is a track that really divides its market up on one single primal instinct across every driver of this 18-car grid, and the capacity to compete here is governed entirely by fear. It is the fear of competing here that either drives people toward or away, nothing in between. Drivers don't avoid this track out of any other reason besides the fact that it is just a little too frightening to compete on full time. I've seen plenty of people back out of a challenge here at Bathurst for the very same reason. But as you can see here, 18 discerning few are looking to compete right here in the land down under, here in Mount Panorama. And taking us away on that formation lap in a moment's time will be the 55 of Fake Galaxy. Can it be 3rd time's the charm for the newcomer to the grid? He missed out in Kota, he missed out in Zandvoort. Will today be any different, or could we be seeing the first of its kind? Regent starting from what looks to be the pit lane there, the 420 going the extra mile on the whole, starting from the back routine. He'll be starting even further away from his compatriot, the 61 of the Blue Frog, who now starts by his lonesome on that 9th row. An ultra competitive top 5 here. I mean, we are looking at 3 championships condensed into one top 5 ensemble. We have 2 championships out of Chris Davies there in 5th place, 1 championship out of White Doctor, and then 3 budding prospects being Fake Galaxy, Tyler Vermack, and Elite Cassie. This is looking to be a very exciting run of things here in Bathurst. All 3 of those drivers in that top 3 understand each other's game rather well by this point. I think the one enigmatic presence in that top 5 is still the newcomer to this grid, but his game has very quickly been understood by the rest of the field in his very short time competing here in Season 10. Make no mistake of it, that this one is looking to make a serious dent in this event right now. heading up through turn 2 then. And as we get a slower look of things, where we're not flat out into this area of the track, can actually start to scope out these major overtaking opportunities. And now, deceptive as it may seem, very tight area here, but I've seen plenty of overtakes attempted and quite a few successful. But it is a very high risk, high reward area of the track here at the cuttings at turns 3 and 4, just as we exit that first sector and start to enter that mountain section here in sector 2. I have seen quite a few drivers gun it up the inside, and it is a very risky thing to do, but you know, risks do come with that understanding of reward. Out through Reed Park in towards Solman and McPhillamy, past what is known as the Wall of Death on the right-hand side. And in the, I think it was the 2020 Bathurst 12 hour, this was the area of the track that Marvin Kirchhofer collided with in his Aston Martin before going quite literally head over heels into the barriers. That was quite a nasty crash. Will we see any of the drivers upset their balance over the Wall of Death? Will we be seeing any victims on the run out of McPhillamy and down towards Brock's Skyline, of course named after Australian motorsports legend Peter Brock, who competed in the Australian Touring Car Championships, best known for getting behind the wheel of the Holden Torana A9X back in the 1970s. Making our way down through the S's and the Dipper, many people have lost out on their opportunity to compete here in Bathurst at this section alone, and we've seen it as early as the first lap. So for a lot of these drivers, this is the most tense environment to be in, especially when one considers that look of the second and third positions on this grid. Tyler Vermack and White Doctor both play second fiddle here to that 55 leading the charge in towards turn 1. Moreover, those two are separated by 8 points in the championship heading into today's round. So that second half of the championship, especially with the recent spur of progress in the last couple of rounds by both of these drivers to get a wriggle on up through the orders here, with Tyler Vermack and White Doctor going blow for blow in the last fortnight of competition. Round 4 going to Vermack, round 5 going to White Doctor. Who comes out on top in this seemingly hard to call top 3 prediction here? Could it be the 55? Could it be the 89? Or could it be the 54? Could it be someone else in its entirety? Only time will reveal the answers. An hour of racing to follow as we make our way in towards the chase. Now, straight line speed is going to be a serious countering point in this race. You can have the maneuverability tenfold, and that's the considerations being thought up right now by the 98 of Elite Cassie. He's got maneuverability by the dozens here over those Mustangs and over those BMWs, but what he makes up for in maneuverability, he misses out on in straight line speed. The Ferrari's anemic twin-turbo V6 can't hold a candle to 5.4 litres of naturally aspirated American muscle. Moreover, that S55 inline 6 turbo of the BMW M4 is an absolute juggernaut. So definitely a lot to consider inside of that top 5. The Ferrari well behind enemy lines here amongst BMWs and Fords alike. But as we see here, 18 cars in all, 17 from the track and 1 from the pit lane, with Regent starting plumb last there in the number 420 from the pits, heading down towards the line then. An hour of racing to follow here in the land down under. Without further ado, for round 6 of season 10 of VSR Phoenix taking us away then, it's a Ford 1-2 here in Mount Panorama. Without further ado then, we are green and racing here in Bathurst. A brilliant start there by Tyler Vermack, but already caught up by the 55 on his way down towards turn 1. The two side by side on the exit of Hell Corner, with Tyler Vermack holding steam there, but has to tuck in behind the 55. Now with a bit of a slipstream train to carry us up the mountain straight for the first time. All drivers there through turn 1 with very little difficulty. That's already a relief. But as we see, worst is yet to come. Happy days are at an end as we make our way up towards turn 2 at Griffin's Bend. We see side by side further down the line for the number 98. There, Elite Cassie getting his elbows out with Ferrari to hold off in advance by the 196 of Bully Boy, who just recently got up past Chris Davies as we head in towards the cuttings for the first time here in Bathurst. A great charge through by the twin Mustangs, the BMW holding very close ground behind them, all three of them separated by 0.4 of a second from one another, up through turns 5 and 6. A brilliant start there, but it's come at the chagrin for some out back. The number 96 of GTR Twiglet, caught down in the cuttings, is back into the pit lane, so he could be out of this race. And there we got confirmation of it already, a DNF before we've even hit the most dangerous section of the track here, down through Brock's Skyline, as we quickly catch on board here with the car in second place. Tyler Vermack, he's caught between a rock and a hard place here, with the 55 up in front looking to gain distance and the 54 behind him looking to advance. He's in a very tough spot on his way in through Forest's Elbow. These three absolutely dead set, but let's not rule out the fourth party involved. We will catch on with that in due course. Yellow flags are back out. It's for the 420. Trying to get a look here. That's Regent in a spot of bother. That was down through Brock's Skyline. It was bound to catch someone, and catch it did. The 420. Back in the green flags then. That's already 2 yellow flags for the price of 1. We see up the order here. Tyler Vermack looking to really get a wriggle on now. Watching from the point of view of White Doctor. We will have to catch on board though. So we can also see here Elite Cassie's point of view. We want to try and get a look just down the line. JDM Grizz looking to get a handful here on the fight overall for 6th place. We just saw the move up the inside for Big Green Man over Chris Davies, who now drops down to 7th in this race. Another yellow flag out. It's for the number 12. Looking to see who that is. Just briefly, before we catch on with the other fights going on the grid, it's Zetu now in trouble. So that's 3 yellow flags now for the price of 1 lap. Looking down the line, we can see it is quite a handful on this grid right now. JDM Oatsy's got himself caught up in a fight with, by the looks of it there, Eurofighter and the Blue Frog. The Battle of the Blues, as it seems here. Ford, Nissan, and Bentley. A remarkable triple set matchup here in towards turn 2. But I want to get a look up into that top 3 just briefly here, so we can still see very close action. This is from the point of view of White Doctor. He's got front row seats here to that fight of the race lead between the 2 Mustangs, starting to carve away a distance from him here on the exit of Solomon in towards McPhillamy. You can see, having not been caught up in as much of the aero wash that Tyler Vermack is currently experiencing riding this close in the wake of the 55, White Doctor is able to take a little bit more of a strategic stance on the matter. He's 1.8 seconds up the road from the Ferrari of Elite Cassie, so he's in a comfortable position right now to start scoping out how does he get the leg up over his championship rival, because as far as the 55 is concerned, there is no easy routes through on that 89. Let's get a look on board, though, with the 89 in question as we just take a quick glance around the field here. We see in the slipstream, but unable to advance. Both of them caught in stalemate. The 55 and the 89 down through to the chase. It turns 21 and 22. Following in their wake there, the 54, the 98 in a comfortable 4th place. Bully Boy up into the top 5, much to the chagrin of Chris Davies. In towards turn 23 we go. So it's already been an exciting start to things here in Bathurst. And right now, these 3 settling into a world of their own for that podium fight, as it were. 2 forward to the BMW. The kings of straight line speed find themselves here on the mountain. Out through turn 1 we go, onto the mountain straight. Bear in mind that Ferrari, I will commend there the efforts of the 98, as right now he's got 2 Mustangs charging him down. As advancing from behind, you can see the 196 and the 42. That's Bully Boy and Big Green Man. 2 Mustangs chasing him down in a Ferrari where he knows straight line speed is nowhere near his advantage here in Bathurst. He's playing for keeps in every area where the cars are turning. Out through turn 2 and it turns 3 and 4. You can see just how close to the wall these drivers are willing to get there. I'm pretty sure that was a scrape on his way in towards the cuttings for the 54 of White Doctor. That really does go quite a way to show just how much of the track these drivers are having to use with such a limited set of options here. Very little in the way of track limits, and I suppose that's great news for some, as it means it's much harder to get a track limits violation. But really, in this case, you wouldn't want to violate the track limits because your one ticket is into the wall. Heading down through Skyline Hill, you can see this is an area of the track that Vermack is quite confident in, and that is an area where he's been able to keep such close distance over the 55 of Fate Galaxy, who was sort of tiptoeing there on his way down the hill. Vermack knows and has got the confidence to lunge down through that area. So really right now, his major issue is getting around in any other space of the track. If he can get up and ahead before Skyline Hill, he can then start to open the taps up. That's the considerations right now for that number 89. The 54 behind is just staying close by and waiting for a mistake to arrive here. Zetu into the pit lanes at the moment in that number 12 McLaren. Watching here with these 3, it has already been a very exciting study here right at the very start of racing here in round 6 of the championship. And it is far from over. We see a little run over the curbs there on the exit of the chase for the 54, but he still stays close. That gap really still focused on the 2 Mustangs up front here, Tyler Vermack and Fate Galaxy. Just taking a look around the field to where some of the other fights are concerned, with 2 Fords here, a civil war for the Blue Oval in the last of those top 5 spots. Bully Boy versus Big Green Man. This could be an exciting one to watch. The 2 former rising stars here in VSR Phoenix now find themselves going head-to-head here in Bathurst. Further down the line as well, also the considerations of a fight here for Dollar Up, so it seems, chasing Regent for 15th place. Another fight as well to consider, Eurofighter versus Smiler. All of these things to consider in due course. We take a look on here with the 98 and the 55. Once again, they're up through the cuttings. This is quite an exciting thing to see. And let's see if we can catch on board with that leading Mustang as well. We just quickly pan on with the battle of the last of the top 5 positions. Big Green Man versus Bully Boy. We're on board with Fate Galaxy, the race leader at the moment, on his way out past Solman into McPhillamy. He's already put on a very sensational performance so far. We take a look over the rear view, and this is the amount of space for Mack is able to close down there. That's well over a car's length. Now he is looking pretty much up the tailpipes of that 55. Or I suppose he would be had they not been mounted on the side. Out through turn 18 into turn 19 we go. The exit of Forest's Elbow. Now, it's starting to become a bit of a pressing factor for him here. While he's got straight line speed to his advantage, Tyler Vermack is getting more and more confident with the stopping areas. Now, that braking zone, he's able to start reeling things in even more and more. So from this distance, he can still potentially lodge an attack, as risky as it may be. You can see starts to close the gap under the brakes. In towards the chase we go. It takes one good exit to put himself side by side, and this could be it. We stay on board here with the defending of 2. With Fate Galaxy defending for the race lead. Tyler Vermack forced to run the long way around the outside at Murray's. He'll still be to the outside on the run in towards turn 1. And looking potentially to tuck back in behind there and give the 55 the full run of the racing line. No, we can see Tyler Vermack making his presence known over the rear quarter. Bear in mind, all of their fighting is just inviting in more action for the 54. And it could be extra side-by-side action here, as we see now emerging into the side draft on the run up the mountain straight. You can see starting to slow down actually a little bit there, just as he exits the slipstream. So what we can definitely take away from all of this is Fate Galaxy is running a slightly lower aero setup. It's giving him just a mile an hour or 2 there, give or take, of extra straight line speed, and that's what's keeping him up at the front of the pack here. Tyler Vermack has got him for grip. Oh, it's contact, I think, there between the 2 heading out of the cuttings. Get a look at this on the replay. Let's try and piece this one together. As taking a look, this was in the fight for first. And this was heading out of turn 3 into turn 4. Now, he was very late on the brakes there. Oh, I don't really know. It looked like contact. It really did, but cameras weren't super revealing for Fate Galaxy. He's down to... Oh, my word. Did you see that there? That was the 98 of Elite Cassie. The yellow flags are back out. Look at this. Just as we cut away from our coverage, we got back on board, and admittedly a bit of desync there, but what you can see, violent snap oversteer for the 98. It did look a little bit silly with the desync, but what we could definitely piece together there for Elite Cassie, he got up over the curbs on the inside of McPhillamy, and what that had done is it's violently snapped his car in the opposite direction. Well, that has been a sudden turn of events for quite a few there. Now we see White Doctor is only half a second away from Tyler Vermack, who now leads here in Bathurst. The BMW in a very confident stead here. You can see where he's actually gaining an advantage over Vermack. That back end keeps stepping away on the 89 on the exit of the chase there. We also saw a brief incident down Skyline Hill for the 504 and one other driver involved there. Believe at that time it could have been the 88. I might be mistaken on that one. Right now, though, White Doctor still fighting for that race lead, as it's now changed hands out of the 55s. So strategy might be the saving grace now for Fate Galaxy. So pressure at an all-time high to get that strategy nailed in. Now, bear in mind, the majority of our drivers here in Bathurst will be looking at a bit more of a preemptive run to the pit lane, as we saw some time ago in the last few runs of competition here in Bathurst across various different championships. Drivers do tend to prefer a 40-60 run, of opening 40% on the first stint, then in brand new tyres, and then the remaining 60% of the race. It's a way of trying to sort of usurp the greater bulk of traffic barreling into the pit lane when things start to slow down at the halfway mark. We've seen drivers play a little bit more hesitantly because, as you can see, those tyres are getting chewed out. And for the 89, he's sliding his way into that sector 2. Watching from White Doctor's point of view, though, things are getting dicey in the fight of the race lead as it now falls into these two's hands. Oh, but being forced to cut over there through Brock's Skyline. White Doctor just a little too late on the brakes. In through the S's and the Dipper. Now down towards turn 18 here at Forest's Elbow. earlier on the accelerator, but how much benefit is that going to serve him? He's in the slipstream on the 89, but he knows straight line speed is ever so slightly in Ford's favor. The best he can do right now is hold on to the slipstream, cling to the coattails of that 89 and pray he can close the distance. And dare I say it, that Mustang is getting larger in the view of the BMW's front. Looking for the inside, he's trying to play into Tyler Vermack's head here to force him to run himself to the outside, and you saw there's a little bit of touch on the grass, bit of a touch and go past the curbs on the left hand side. Tyler Vermack is getting his elbows out here. He is not letting go of his newfound race lead. He already had to stay very close to the 55 to obtain it, and it has sort of fell into his hands there, much to the chagrin of the 55, whom of which he is suspected to have made contact with him through the cuttings. The White Doctor, though, he's not saying no to the chances to fight for the race lead here. And with a great exit of turn one, we could be back into the fight as we run uphill. Bear in mind, that one incident hasn't done too much to take Fake Galaxy out of the not the championship fight, the race fight here, as he's only down in third, and you can see only off by 3.2 seconds. One good strategy can bring that back at level pegging, looking to potentially go around the outside, then for a later switch onto the apex there, forced back in behind. White Doctor is looking to exploit any available gaps here left open by the 89, whether they're inside, whether they're outside, it really does not matter. This is all about a presence game now for the BMW. Both of them sliding out of the cuttings on the way up through Quarry. Then into Frog Hollow. We're barely a quarter of an hour into this race, and it's been quite an exciting start indeed. Bathurst does not disappoint. Of course, part of that unofficial TRTN holy trinity of favourite tracks to broadcast for, the other two being Silverstone and Snetterton. Bathurst is one of those circuits that just doesn't disappoint. It's theatrics at every stop. With 14 minutes covered, 13 and a half if we want to get specific here. White Doctor still within his chances to lead this race, but leading it right now is Tyler Vermack in the 89. Looking further around the field, not trying to distract ourselves too much with the fight up front. There are fights going on out back here. The 88 versus the 4. Shawnee Mac versus Dollar Up. This is for 13th place on the track. Then looking further around, trying to close the gap in on Bully Boy. We see this as Chris Davies. He started in that top 5, is not far from returning to it. But as we can see, having taken the top 5 spot off of that 196, now interjecting a crowd of Fords, is the 44 Nissan of JDM Grizz. The leading two still separate by only about 5 tenths of a second there, about half a second in towards Murray's. Big green man off by his lonesome, now into 4th place. That's come at much to the chagrin of the 98, who is, I'm told, back out on track. That's Elite Cassie, who took that tumble out through McPhillamy. Bully Boy following there on the stead of JDM Grizz now. Straight line speed. He's got the advantage over the Nissan. He might not even need that because, as you can see, with a poor run out of turn 23, that could be a free position. Yellow flags are back out. It's for Elite Cassie down at Griffin's, so I'm told there. Getting a look with these two. Oh, that is a dicey spot. I don't know if you saw that there in the rear view mirror, but if we can try and catch on board with the 98 just to see whereabouts is he in the world here. He's in a very, very tough spot. I would not want to be in his position right about now. The 98, you can see there, is stranded out at Griffin's. And I'm not sure 100% there the extent of the damage, but you can see it is at least somewhere severe over the rear. The 98 is trying to just get back going now. And there you can see getting back going is the 98. Now having lost out the last of those top 15 positions. Let's get back on board with the fight up front as things start to open up between White Doctor and Tyler Vermack, I should say, as now north of a second is the number 89. But the number 98 still in trouble, and I believe that could be a retirement out of this race for Elite Cassie. It has taken a very sour turn in the last 2 races for the number 98. He was previously second in the championship, now having dropped to the last of those podium positions. Could a DNF today further cement a drop down the order, perhaps even to the back, if not outside of the top 5? It's a dire situation for that 98, a gamble that ultimately hasn't gone his way. With several such problems for stability, Ferrari have been struggling here in Bathurst. You got to hand it to him for the short time he's had on track. That 98 was able to put on a very solid challenge, but it seems that his run of luck is at its end. So getting a look at things here, just over a quarter of an hour into round 6 of the championship. Tyler Vermack leads by 1.2 seconds to White Doctor in second place. Fake Galaxy, after a brief hiccup there between himself and Vermack down at the cuttings earlier on in this race, finds himself third place and be ahead of, I should say, Big Green Man in fourth. A notable improvement there to put forward in 4 of those top 5 positions. Can you believe it? There with Big Green Man in 4th, Bully Boy into 5th, but close competition at hand here with JDM Grizz. Now, we missed out on the move that put him back in the line. Oh, off in the background there. That's Chris Davies. We can see pretty clear cut what's happened for him just gone there on the exit of, looking at it here, turn 1, just up and over the curbs on the outside there. And it's actually caused a momentary slip on the right-hand side, and then he's into the wall. Past a certain point, he was mostly a passenger. Now as he drops behind Regent in towards what is currently 11th place on this field. JDM Grizz, he is still clawing his way back to a top 5 here. You've got to respect the hustle out of Nissan here. They're one of the only 6-cylinder brands to still be fighting inside of that top 10. The only other 2 being BMW and Porsche at this time. As we say that, the 28, of course, now having dropped out of that, it now reintroduces Ferrari, with Regent now up into the top 10. And whilst we're on the subject of our back runners, let's get on board with another one of them, as he does find himself 2.6 seconds from the nearest fight. That is set to be with the number 44 up in 6th place, and that's the Blue Frog. Now, he most recently breached into the top 10 just after round 5 in Zandvoort. So for the 61, with a very bizarre strategy, you've got to respect the hustle here. Of course, he is technically looking back through the run of championship winners after the, albeit very controversial, season 9 in what is now the Porsche Cup era of VSR Phoenix. The Blue Frog was the gold division and hence overall champion, as halfway through the season, before its cancellation after Alton Park, the platinum category that previously defines the front row was expunged. So with many drivers retiring from that season, it left the spot vacant at the front of the championship for the 61 to sweep on through, and he gave himself his first ever championship here in VSR Phoenix. And now it seems, after already having achieved what he set out to do in terms of career goals on VSR Phoenix, he is now more or less toying with the rest of the grid in his time with Bentley. And it's definitely been a memorable run of things for that 61. And he's not alone in that fight, as Regent, another driver who had quite a controversial spur in VSR Phoenix for quite a few seasons, has also taken to the lighter side of things, both of them experimenting with this back of the grid mentality. And ultimately, I would say it has actually played quite nicely to them. Regent, if memory serves correctly, is 6th in the championship, with the Blue Frog having just made his way to 10th. So it might not be the winning formula for a championship fight, but it is one that has maximised enjoyability for these 2 drivers. It's what's going to keep allowing them to come back week in and week out. There was a bit of a fracture point in terms of opinion over whether or not they should be allowed to do this, as it undermines the professional integrity of this league, and that was the claims made by some of the higher-ups. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to suggest that. It is definitely a bit silly to see, but ultimately it's the volition of the drivers themselves. You can't govern whether or not they choose to contribute to the times or not, and even if it's the case where you mandate that they set a time, they'll underpin it by doing a worse off time. You'd be running yourselves in circles around drivers who will get what they want off of their endeavours in their career. So I'm told we've got more of an understanding over what's happened for Elite Cassie. Now, the first incident, of course, we saw was Aero Wash as he made his way up through McPhillamy Park, and couple that with a run over the curb. The car violently snapped off in the right, from the left to the right, I should say, as it sent him spiralling into the gravel traps on the exit of turn, looking at it here, turn 10 at McPhillamy Park. Now, that second incident, so I'm told, that happened down at Griffin's Bend, was actually as a result of a wheel crash. So it was hardware failure for Elite Cassie. Now, this is not the first time this has happened for him. Those with keen eyes remember the NLRL Solo Multi-Class Endurance Championship, namely the round at the Nürburgring, where he started behind a majority of the GT4s in a multi-class championship, made his way up through that pack almost instantly, and where we had predictions placed within the first 5 laps he could be up into that top 5 fight, he made the gap clear within 4 corners. By the time we had exited the Mercedes Arena section, Elite Cassie was on fire. to perform in that round, but it was a a wheel disconnect down at the Coca-Cola curve that took him out of that fight. So this is not the first time it's happened for that 98. Historically, he has had issues with his hardware, and that's been sort of his kryptonite over the course of the last couple of months in competition. He's had sensational performances, but every now and again they get undermined by these otherwise external forces that he just has no ability to control himself. And that's one of the saddest cases, really, in sim racing. And you'll find that quite a few times. A bit of a step out there for JDM Grizz. Very nearly got into the wall up through Quarry. He's in pursuit right now from the 61. This could be one to watch here as we'll take a look on board with these two. Just taking a brief look into that top 5 right now. Vermac from Dr. Galaxy and Big Green Man. Let's get a look on board, though, with the Blue Frog. This is going to be an exciting one. We were following with the 61 for a short while here. We're back on board with the Bentley, now in pursuit of a fight of 6th place on the field. A very bizarre point of view as well, of course. Feel it necessary to mention every time. The Bentley's one of the only cars on ACC to be right-hand drive, so it gives us a bit of a unique angle of everything. If anything, and now this is going out on a limb here, if anything, that is giving him an ever so slight ergonomic advantage. Of course, this is an Australian track. Australia is a right-hand drive country. In its time for touring car racing, where the track was able to sort of develop and evolve past the Grand Prix stages, those cars were all right-hand drive. They were sedans that you could buy off the dealership from manufacturers like Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, and Holden. All of them right-hand drive. So the track has been, you could definitely say, influenced by its surroundings, and that is giving that Bentley an inadvertent advantage. I don't think he was expecting to feel a little bit more comfortable coming into Bathurst, but comfortable he is. And of course, with the circuit being looking at it here, it is an anti-clockwise circuit. It's a majority of left-hand turns, so he'll be having a little bit of a better time seeing around those corners as he makes his way into the tighter areas of the track, especially up here at turns 3 and 4 at the cuttings. Right now, he's in pursuit of that Nissan. He's all out of shape there. The 44 of JDM Grizz drops back quite a way. We've just been told as well of another DNF, and that's for the 88, of whom I believe is Dollar Up in the BMW. Ran into a spot bother and is out of round 6 of the championship. We're looking here with a fight of 6th place, Nissan versus Bentley. In towards Skyline. Very hesitant there on the brakes. The Nissan, you can see all the way up to the front bumper of the Bentley. I don't think Blue Frog was expecting that, but good reactions kept him from rear-ending that 44. Watching here with the helmet cam of the Blue Frogs, who make our way onto the Conrod out of turn 19. Bear in mind, not too far up the road actually, and despite all of their fighting, has actually started to advance a gap open on the 196 in 5th place, that being Bully Boy in that bright yellow Mustang. There could be a chance here for the Blue Frog, who started from the back of this field today, to emerge in the top 5. Now, bear in mind, we are not far off the chances here of our runs into the pit lane, and so I'm told we've already got some here. Fake Galaxy is looking for an undercut on the leading pair, the 54 and the 89 of White Doctor and Tyler Vermac. So he's into the pit lane, so this has upgraded to the fight of the top 5 so far for the 44 and the 61. Admittedly, this will be under strategy. We'll see exactly where that positions them towards the end of this race. What I have been told as well in the meantime is that Region is now into the top 10. Now, we can definitely make a suggestion as to why that's been, with Smiler and Chris Davies into the pit lane, as well as Eurofighter. So a few positions out in front of that 420 have started to fall away. Now, the question there remains for the remainder of that podium, with Vermac leading, Doctor second, and Big Green Man in third. What is the considerations next, especially talking about that front row on whether or not they come into the pit lane now, because that 55 is looking to undercut them on strategy. So the 89 has to get this one perfectly leveled in here. He can't afford any kind of mistakes between now and his run to the pit lane, and that's the same story carrying on the shoulders of the 54 right behind him there. White Doctor, who I must say has been able to keep pretty admirable distance in that BMW. It has definitely been Ford's race to lose here in Bathurst. It is a track that they have dominated in almost every visit. We do see here JDM Grizz getting side by side with the 196. So it is 3 cars in all. A very bizarre matchup. Ford, Nissan and Bentley. This is not the first time, as it stands, that the 61 has been involved in that matchup. He was fighting earlier on with, I believe it was Otzi and Eurofighter. We see here, this is an absolute storm of steel. Up the Conrod straight we go. Watching here from the rear view, it's side by side between Bully Boy and JDM Grizz. Now, this is upgraded for 4th place. As it stands, it's for 5th overall. In towards the chase. A great move there for the 196 to hold on to position. The 44 nearly faked out into the pit lane. That was very cheeky there. You saw that from the 196 trying to fake out a run from the 44. Good reactions from both. All 3 of these drivers giving us a very entertaining show here towards the halfway mark of round 6. The question therein remains on this lap, lap 13, where can it go next? Well, out through turn 1, already looking to get the run on the 44. The 61 is in pursuit, will stay on board on what is currently the fight of 4th. Looking in towards Griffin's. A little bit of a slide out there for the 44. He's lost a lot of steam on the exit of Griffin's Bend, trying to hold the inside line in towards the cuttings. It's very, very tight there. Had it been even a second later to slot back in behind, that could have been a collision up through the turns 3 and 4. So getting on board here, and this is a unique point of view I wanted to take a look at here because it really does go to demonstrate. Oh, never mind. We will have to cut on that with later on. Very nearly was that disaster for the 44. He's done quite a good job there to keep himself from totally clattering that Nissan, but he has took quite the tank slapper in the 44. He now tucks in behind the Blue Frog, who is now firmly in pursuit of things over Bully Boy in 4th place. Taking a look around the field here, we are still curious to see what the signs are up front for Tyler Vermack and White Doctor. And we see here with the race leader in the 89, he's coming in to the pit lane. Following in his stead, the 54 is staying out. So White Doctor looking to potentially overcut the 89 here by having fresh air in his lungs in that 54. He'll have a clean lap ahead of him. Very little traffic. The nearest car to him is all the way down into turns 5 and 6. And that's the number 4 of JDM Shawnee Mac. You see here for Big Green Man, he's into the pit lane. What's the call for Bully Boy then? He was very close to having that position snatched off of him, but the 196 there, always thinking about it. Oh, come on, that is getting a bit childish now for the 196. That was very on the nose. Even if he had committed to it then, that would have been a potential investigation because he was well over those thick lines there. That would have been an invalid pit entry under the race control investigations. Getting very cheeky now with the mind games, but I think it's not really doing too much to shake off the 61. I think for the strategy right now, the Blue Frog is still looking at a potential chance for a 60-40 as opposed to what is currently the running trend here up towards the front being a 50-50. Longer on that first stint because he's going to be able to push even harder on the second stint with less time to play with on the new set of tyres. So he'll be able to give them even more punishment than he's had to dish out in the opening part of his race so far. Question therein remains here with Tyler Vermack now released from the pit lane. You can see he's made his way up towards turn 2 and quite a healthy gap, I should remind you, between himself and Fake Galaxy. So could that be Galaxy's chances of taking the race lead officially sold under, as now we wait to see what is the call for the 54, the only remaining of that top 3 fight still yet to pit. Do see for Big Green Man, he drops in behind Fake Galaxy. White Doctor on his way down towards the chase. So he's had a very clean lap here. No interruptions, but running over the chase. That is the first of its kind there for the 54. Running into a spot above it now. He's had to take a few runoffs over the course of this race. You can see he's really experimenting with those brakes now, pushing the car well beyond what I think that BMW is capable of giving him right now at the season midway. The brakes are not the strongest so far for the 54. Bully Boy not far from the line here. You can see right up his backside is the 61 still in pursuit here. What is the call for the 196? He's tried to fake out a run to the pit lane many a time, but you can see that he is really starting to flag here with the signals on. He's coming into the pits by looks of it there, and that is fully confirmed for him. He's into the pit lane. Blue Frog stays out. Following him in comes JDM Grizz in the 44. running over the chase there. More trouble this time for the number 1 of VSR Antion. We saw an issue earlier on for the 54 of White Doctor, and for the number 1, he takes that as his calling card to come into the pit lane. The JDM Oatsy nearest to the pit lane entry. Following in instead there is Regent. Oatsy's in, Regent stays out. Still no call as to when he'll be pitting. White Doctor now on a real push stint here. Having emerged from the slipstream of that 89, he is now with fresh air in his lungs, has a great opportunity to extend the margins over Tyler Vermack. He's been held up behind that Mustang. His major Achilles heel has been the fact that he's caught a lot of aero wash stuck up behind the 89. He knows in the corners he can tackle Vermack's times here, but straight line speed has been the single wrestling point away from his race lead. For White Doctor, it may not be such a simple case. It may not be so black and white as to whether or not he can take another race win here in Bathurst. He might have to take the hit and hope that he can come back both arms swinging in Kyle Army, where the BMW could definitely put much more of a fight on. But those two straights, the Mountain and the Conrods, have been the Achilles heel for BMW. It has been the single reason they have not been able to advance past second place. They only find themselves leading right now under strategy. The case therein remains, can strategy be their deliverance? Can it be their salvation over Ford? Well, entering the pit lane, we're about to find out of White Doctor. The race is on then, and with only 20.4 seconds on the intervals there between himself and Tyler Vermack, it's going to have to take a very brisk stop to put White Doctor in competitive stead. The chances are right now that he'll emerge behind the 89, but by not a long way. Tyler Vermack has had things nailed to the ground here in terms of strategy. He was given a bit of a deus ex machina after his collision with the 55. We still don't know 100% if it was a collision, but we are left to assume otherwise here with that car getting turned around on what looked like a rear left impacting through the cuttings. With Doctor still in the pits, he's yet to have dropped off of his jacks. He's yet to be cleared of that mandatory pit stop. We're about to see if that's the case coming into the pits as well. We see here is the Blue Frog. Tyler Vermack is on the exit of the chase, so it's now or never for the 54 team. We see leaving the pits at the moment is Shawnee Mack in the number 4. I think it's just a little too late here because on the exit of Murray's, the 54 still hasn't been cleared. Tyler Vermack looks to take the lead once again here in Bathurst. But he has been cleared, so just racing down towards turn 1. You can see off in the distance that turquoise and white. Now I'm told that is perhaps also a shade of teal, but I'm not getting pedantic about colours here. That's turquoise on the 89. Now leading that charge. The bottom line, call it whatever colour you want. That's the colour of a leading car. Blue Frog still in the pits. Also yet to have pitted right now is Regent, moving up past his compatriot, whom of which he started alongside in qualifying on that 9th row. However, he started from the pit lane where the 61 started on track. Right now, they've swapped hands for position. A very bizarre one indeed. Something to note as well, 4.2 seconds, the current split at the last interval between Vermack and Doctor. So there is still the chances here with 25 minutes to the checkered flag that the 54 can rein in the 89, but the chances right now are still relatively slim. Pace has been strong in the advantage here for Tyler Vermack. As a matter of fact, of these two, both of them fail to hit for that fastest lap. That's still held at this time by Fake Galaxy, who finds himself 4th with the fastest lap on the grid so far and quite some distance away from Tyler Vermack. 420 down through the S's now, just on the exit of Skyline. Being allowed through there by the 32 of, that is, I believe looking at it there, GTR Smiler. Just briefly taking a look back to the standings very quickly, just to talk about division standings. GTR Smiler on your screens at the moment is, a matter of fact, continuing to lead in the AM category. It's a very underspoken or understated part of this championship. The pros and AMs, it is, has still been a majority pro grid, but this is still the more user accessible branch of the championship standings. Looking at it, Smiler in division 1st, with Shawnee Mac division 2nd and Jayco in division 3rd. Timo division 4th, Dollar Up in division 5th, Daily Boy division 6th, Boy Shade division 7th, and then further in division there, Didinio 8th, Zetu 9th, and MSC JK, otherwise Jonathan Curran, in looking at it there, division 10th. If I do the maths correctly there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 10th. So fantastic. I know now at my ripe old age of 22 how to count to 10. We are making big advancements here on TRTN, and we only make big advancements. Into the pit lane, we also just saw with emergency damages to repair. That's the 42 of Big Green Man. So this is fantastic news for Bully Boy. That was a free position up for the 196. But this is all rather upsetting for the 42. He's had a very solid race here, Big Green Man. Make no mistake of it. He had the chances to advance to 4th by the end of today's race. Now, he'll be looking hopeful at a chance to even be in the top 10 after all things said and done. Right now, he's dropped to 10th with the number 6 just having passed across the line there. That's JDM Otzi, who was the representative of the back of that top 10. He moves up to 9th place. Now, the curious story of our last pit runner. Regent started from the pit lane, so he's no stranger to what that looks like, and is now in 3rd place on the grid. You can see right behind him is Fake Galaxy. He'll be taking that position whether on track or in the pits. Really, it's only a matter of time for the 420, and he's reveled in the attention over the course of this race as he, like the 61, has had a very remarkable performance here in Bathurst. I think that has really been something they've been keen to express over the course of Season 10. It's why they've gone with that controversial back of the grid sort of mantra for the majority of this season. It's also just represented an interesting challenge for them. And also, if you were looking at it from a driver development point of view, you could definitely make the argument what they're doing is giving themselves ample opportunity to A, navigate the back of the grid in less than preferable qualifying conditions if they were to go into a major event. And moreover, it does give them the chance to get in good overtakes, to practice more of that on-track etiquette, because as we've seen is quite a common case. And it's an easy trap for drivers to fall into when they enter this sport with natural skill, is often they go with underdeveloped side-by-side sort of overtaking and defending etiquette. We do see drivers that are more commonly started towards the front of the pack get very elbows out. They do become a bit more fiery personalities throughout VSR. There have definitely been such occasions as this where championship rivals often end up in these incidents moreover than anyone else, because neither of them have ever been in the position to where they've been challenged this hard before. They're used to drivers being a little bit more on the tepid side for overtakes. We're seeing, though, what looks to be a good fight here going on at the back of the top 10. Chris Davies into the top 10 at the moment with Big Green Man in pursuit. Now, this represents a very important mark here for Big Green Man. We did say that after that pit stop, he was hopeful to be seeing the top 10 again. Well, there is the mark for it. The number 28 right in front of him represents the last of those top 10 positions right now. Getting past him means he can finally make his way back into the top 10. Bear in mind, there is still the consideration at hand for Regent. He's yet to have come into the pits. He's already lost that position out to Fake Galaxy. Very little in the way of trouble there. As you see for Regent on the exit of Forests, that was a little clatter with the wall. Watching here with these two, Chris Davies versus Big Green Man. This is for 10th place on the field with 20 minutes left to go. Up the mountain straight. Now, it's rare to see this flipped on its head. BMW leading away from Ford, and Ford actually struggling to stay within pace in the straightaways here. Heading down towards turn 2. Oh, my word. That was elbows out, and that was very, very nearly a major incident between the 42 and the 28. That could have gone sour very, very quickly. That's definitely put a bit of a shudder in the spine of the 42. He's getting a little too enthusiastic on his entry back to the field. We see into the pits comes Regent. So if he plays his cards right, Big Green Man... I went a little bit vaguely Cockney there for a second. Big Green Man. No, Big Green Man won't have to wait too long for his chances to return to the top 10 if he is able to get in a solid remainder of this lap. He finds himself just heading in towards McPhillamy Park here on the way to Skyline. If he can chain everything together nicely, he could actually find himself alongside Chris Davies fighting with Regent come the end of this race. Well, we'll leave you on board with some drivers on track at the moment. We cut on here with the Blue Frog, but let's have a look with the driver we've not really been able to follow an awful lot of over the course of this race. Right now, looking to gain 8th position, this is JDM Otzi. We'll leave you on board with him just for a moment's time. We'll be back in a few moments. Ignore the fact that it says VSR Otzi. The placards were made before the establishment of the JDM team here in Season 10. So still been on board here with JDM Oatsy. Sadly couldn't make the advance up into 8th place. Regent stays up in 8th by 7 seconds there to the number 6 on the field with 18 seconds left. 18 seconds? 18 minutes left to go in this race. See here with Regent, the one in question, actually not too far away from the very same driver. He started, at least in qualifying terms, on the same row of 9th row towards the back of the field. There is the 61, only 3.6 seconds up the road. These two could fight for 7th in the next 17.5 minutes. Only time will tell whether or not that is wholeheartedly the case. The 55 is in. And there you can see with sizable nose damage. So it's all come asunder here for Fake Galaxy. As he repairs the car, he's back out onto the field, but he's looking to drop down to the back of that top 10 right now, with Regent getting past him in the pit lane. He's going to drop into the field in around 8th place here, just behind the Ferrari. So still holding on to a top 10. Things have come asunder for what look like hopeful signs for Fake Galaxy. The memories of the past here, all the way back as far as Kota in his first time in VSR Phoenix, have opened back up. And with 17 minutes to spare, he is now back again fighting for the last of those top 5 positions. He's already got to clear Regent, then he's got to clear Blue Frog, and then he's got to clear Antion. Right now, he's on heroic difficulty, trying to find his way back to that top 5. We see here now inheriting 3rd place is the 196 of Bully Boy. It has been an admirable fight for him so far. Great pace, great consistency, and as he's outlived the majority of his opponents here, he has put a very, very efficient performance up on display in that 196. You've really got to hand it to him there, that he has not left anything up to the imagination. It has been very, very straightforward for him. Regarding the gap between the leading pairs, we just saw there in the foreground was the 54 of White Doctor's BMW. We catch on here with a leading Mustang. The 89 of Tyler Vermack leads by 3.7 seconds. Now, getting a scope as to where this will put them coming into the next round. Of course, looking at those previous wins, this will be Vermack's gunning to be 2nd victory over what could have been White Doctor's 4th. And despite all of that, it's been otherwise more consistently towards the front of the pack results for Vermack to keep him in the lead of this championship. The two were divided by 8 points heading into it. Right now, that'll open up to about 13 points should neither of them take the fastest lap. So heading into Kyalami, what is provisionally Vermack's home race, he's not going to be looking to go down in front of the home crowd in the 89. So this is going to be a much more invigorated performance than the one we're already seeing here. That'll be him firing on really all cylinders in the Mustang, heading into the final race round for 2025, and then 5 more races in the 2026. All of that to be discussed in the near future. So as we just hit that quarter of an hour mark left to go in this race, 45 minutes covered in what has already been quite the chaotic round here in Bathurst. It has found many ups and many downs for many drivers on the grid. So we see here for the race leader, Tyler Vermack making his way out through the chase. He leads by 3.7 seconds to White Doctor in 2nd. Bully Boy somewhere down the line there. You can see the gap really on display between the first 2 of the field and then the remainder of that grid, with Bully Boy down in 3rd place. He's just making his way in towards turn 10, 11, 12 and 13 as these two make their way down towards turn 1, nearly on the next lap up. Bully Boy 3rd, JDM Grizz in 4th. Oh, that's an incident there for the 504. That's Eurofighter. Otherwise, Timo on the grid, he's found a real spot of bother. Yellow flags currently out for this area of the track. He's obscured from the cameras there. We can't actually see him, but note that those drivers are trying to avoid him on their way down through this section of the track. If we try and catch on board with someone in that area, as a matter of fact, we can see here from the 504's point of view, this is Timo. He's having to go back up the hill, and this, we had to see drivers do this before. They had to go back up the hill to turn the car around. Bear in mind, though, approaching from behind is the 28 and the 42. That's Chris Davies, a big green man. So he's going to have to get a wriggle on here to get out of their way. Oh my goodness, that very nearly was trouble for all of them. That 504, that could be a curtain call from here. You can see there is sizable damage to his steering system, so the chances don't remain likely for him to be able to get that car to the pits, but you've got to hand it to the 504. He is getting back up, and he is getting back to work here. 504, currently 14th in this race. He's on his way out of Forests, about to be intercepted as it stands right now by the leading duo. You can see just in the background there, the 89 peeling into frame. The 54 not far from his position. So, sorry, looking back onto the rest of that field then. From out past third place, we continue the countdown from fourth. So we see JDM Grizz in fourth place, GTR Antion in fifth, with the Blue Frog in sixth. Not far away, I should say, as well from Antion, and also not far away from the Blue Frog's current point of view is Fake Galaxy, who started from pole, and it's all come asunder for him. Less than ideal strategy, coupled with an incident with Tyler Vermack down in the cuttings, and then another incident that's forced him back into the pit lane and nearly to the back of that top 10. He's 7th place with the fastest lap, and currently in 8th is Regent. JDM Otzi in 9th with Big Green Man in the top 10. Chris Davies in 11th, and then down in 12th place. Actually, I should note this is a very close fight between the 42 and the 28. I actually couldn't even see the 28 the first time around. Heading down towards turn 2. These two are still fighting. Into the pits, though, goes GTR Smiler. Eurofighter in, of course, to repair those damages. Shawnee Mac in 12th place. We'll see Smiler potentially, by looks of it there, drop down a peg to what is currently 13th. I see, though, that Smiler is back out on track, so we'll hold on to 13th for the time being. It's Timo that will drop a mark there to 15th. With now up to 14th place goes VSR Dollar Up. So a bit of a confusing state of affairs, and still plenty more confusion to follow, as we're seeing a few more fights start to erupt. First among them here looks to be for the 61. The Blue Frog looking to fight here with GTR Antion. It's a night and day difference between the Bentley and the Porsche. Up the inside he goes, just cruises on by the number 1. Following in his trail, I should add as well, is Fake Galaxy, not too far away at all. Looking up the inside, very nearly snatched the back end there on the number 1. So looking here from GTR Antion's point of view, is like a deer in the headlights with the Bentley approaching down the Conrod. Now he's got even worse company here. That raging 55, the Mustang, who started from pole position, now staring up the back end of the number 1. Antion's in a very vulnerable spot here, heading down towards turn 1. He's going to hold on to the racing line, and this is where the Mustang could be able to cruise on past. It's flat 6 versus V8. It's a losing gambit for Porsche, who are among the slowest for straight line speed. So this is going to be the worst spot to have been caught up by the Mustang. Now looking up the inside on the mountain straight, Antion right now salvaging what he can. Can't necessarily find enough room to defend in the straightaways. He'll have to try and gun for it through the corners. We've seen plenty of drivers come throughout history to use the Porsche here in Bathurst, and where there have been measured stories of success, there have been in tenfold the amount stories of drivers getting caught up like this, just almost past like they're standing still. You've got to hand it to Antion. He took a real gamble coming into season 10. Of course, the drivers are in a one car only commitment. They can't change their vehicles past their first choice. So to pick the Porsche was definitely one of the loftier decisions for the former Ford driver, but he seems to have gotten just about all right with it over the course of the season. But today has been not perhaps the greatest shining point for the Porsche 911 992. Not that there's anything that Antion can necessarily do about that. That's something kind of out of his control. This is an engineering problem over the driver itself. See here, JDM Grizz with a little bit of nose damage could actually be getting intercepted soon by the 61. That nose damage is going to create just that little pocket of drag in the gap created from the bonnet, and that's going to be slowing him down in the straightaways. Of course, we've seen already demonstrated the absolute vital point of having straight line speed is for drivers over the course of this race, and the Bentley, I should say, is a bit of a silent sort of a silent bullet here. This is one that has carved its way through. We don't have a lot of data really to carry with us with Bentley in terms of their straight line speed. It's one of those very criminally understudied cars in this game. And that's the same story really for the Nissan. We are treading in unknown territory here between the GTR and the Bentley Continental. Bear in mind that Mustang still looking to navigate 2 here. This could actually be a bit of a salvage drive for Fake Galaxy, as he is looking just up the road from his current position at 4th place in the hands of that number 44 Nissan. So getting back on board with the man now in the middle, we're on board with the Blue Frog, looking at his chances for 4th place. Bear in mind, he's still having to look at his chances to defend 5th. He gets side by side, though, with the Nissan, and looks to be potentially up and past him in towards the cuttings there. Later on the brakes, the Blue Frog, you could definitely make the argument he was possibly let through there by the injured 44. Wasn't looking to make this one too much of a suicidal run in the last 10 minutes, just looking to get points on the charts here. Heading up through Solomon in towards McPhillamy. Just off in the background, that's the 44 and the 55. The Blue Frog escapes up into 4th place. Let's see how things fare for JDM Grizz. He's defending off of 5th place right now, but he's on borrowed time in that Nissan, making his way down towards Forest's elbow here at turn 18 and 19. This is where the Ford, once again, like it did for the Porsche of GTR Antion, is going to intercept that Nissan. You can see, though, the Nissan isn't a slouch in the long run, and borrowing some of that slipstream off of the Bentley, he's been able to keep himself at least decent distance over the Mustang. But just look at it there. It's moving past him like he's standing still. The 55 is just unparalleled in a straight line. Try as you may, that was inevitable out of Fate Galaxy. So now resides the question over what is this fight going to look like with the obstacle now cleared of that 44. The 61 and the 55 are back in level pegging here for 4th. This is where things could get very, very dangerous. The Blue Frog isn't looking to drop any more positions in this race. He is not going to allow one to slip between his fingers after all the hard work he's put in, starting from the back from that 9th row. To be on the 2nd row at the end of the race is a real achievement by any stretch of the imagination. So he is not about to roll over and let the 55 take his achievement off of him. Bear in mind, he can use his size to his advantage here. The Bentley, despite being tremendously large, often called the Boatley, affectionately by its fans, it is actually one of the lighter cars on this field. Now, of course, that's not been helped by the recent introduction of 8 kilos under balance of performance, but then again, neither is Ford, seeing themselves as the most petite cars on the grid with 20 kilos added on that 7th gen Mustang. So it is the battle of the brutes here, the battle of the big boys, as it were. Bentley versus Ford, the two heavyweights here in Bathurst. Heading down through McPhillamy. That Ford staying very, very close by to the Bentley. You've really got to appreciate the sight of it all there. 4-litre twin-turbo V8 versus 5.4-litre naturally aspirated V8. Proper thunder down under here in Bathurst. You love to see it. There, as you can see, as we hit top gear, the 55 just engages the hyperdrive. You can see it there. He just starts walking past him. He's got enough time there to take a look out of his window to his left-hand side, wave hello to the 61, and then blast on by him. But not if the 61 has anything to say about it. Believe me, the Blue Frog does, as that is a fantastic defense there. Up the inside, in through the chase, holds off against the 55. That is a rare sight. No one has seemingly been able to stand in the 55's way. It was an indomitable stride by Fate Galaxy down that back straight at the Conrod on the way into the chase. But there is a real record of firsts. The 61 stands in his way, steadfast in his objective to see the 2nd row. 5 minutes left to go in this race, and we are still firmly in the fight of 4th. Looking over that tremendously large rear wing of the Bentley, we can see the 55 encroaching on 4th place, but he's just a little too far away to make a move up the inside by the time we hit Griffins at turn 2. In towards turn 3 we go, over the dash cam view here for the Bentley, where it tightens up massively for him, swings out to the right, hooks in on the left there, very close to the Audi signs on the inside wall. Now on the run up through Quarry, blind uphill right-hander into another blind uphill right-hander. That switches direction just past the curbs here into a left-hander. Flat in, little lift there, back on the throttle ASAP, just before the wall of death, out through Solomon into McPhillamy we go. And this is exceptional stuff out of both the Bentley and the Ford, because all of that, hell for leather, and the Ford is still with him. Down through Skyline, into the S's and the Dipper we go. Down towards Forests we go. The 55 looking up the inside. Is he going to be able to make a move stick there? Super easy to get turned around in that section of the track. And this is where we get to do it all over again, much closer than he was the last time around. The 55 encroaching on the 61. Can the Blue Frog find himself to be so lucky the 2nd time around that we go fighting here on the Conrod Straight? In towards the chase we go. You can see though, and this is remarkable, even further away, by looks of it, before we hit the chase, the 55 is still stuck in behind the 61. I was not expecting that one. It was a much more... Oh! Whoa, 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 all the way sideways out and spun there for the 55. It's disaster. And this is fantastic news for the Blue Frog. We thought he could maybe recover the car there. Look at that on the replays. On the exit of the chase, caught up over the curves, then onto the grass, and there, fully spun, clatters the AMG signs, and he's all the way spun around onto the other side of the track. We thought there was maybe the chances to recover it. No, sir, not at all. That's the 55 potentially out of this race. Actually, he has gotten back going, but he's into the pits. What is the current call then for Fake Galaxy? This is fantastic news for the 61. He was going to hold on to 4th place by the looks of it all the way to the checkered flag. 2.5 minutes left to go. Functionally about a lap and a half here for the 89, leading down towards turn 1. We'll get on board here with Tyler Vermack. He's got enough in the tank here for 2 more laps, this being the first of them, with White Doctor not far off his trails. It has been a rather dramatic turn of events there. The 55 now drops out of the top 10. I will say, driver of the day votes are pretty self-evident here. It would be swinging in the direction of the 61. I would also hazard to say as well, the 196 is in my runnings for driver of the day. The 196 of Bully Boy finding his way onto a podium here, and he's done so through ruthless consistency on this grid. A very understated performance where he's only found himself in a handful of battles. He's not found himself on screen all too many times, but he has had a very, very solid performance indeed. Looking around the field to see where the nearest fights are coming from. One to consider here. 6 cylinders against 6 cylinders. V6 versus flat 6. Antion versus Grizz. The 44 and the number 1. They're on the Conrod at the moment. And entering that final lap not far from now. Actually, as it'll be one more lap for these drivers after that of Tyler Vermack, who is not too far from their position. Actually still in the mountain section as these two make their way to the chase. They'll still have a few more laps to play with here in their chances of the last of those top 5 positions. Shawnee Mack in the number 4, soon to give over by looks of things here to the number 61, right on his trails there in towards turn 1. You've got to hand it off to Bentley. They have really found the secret recipe here in Bathurst. And in the hands of the Blue Frog, they have done an exceptional job. Had it been a case that he actually qualified, I'd have no doubts in my mind that Blue Frog could have found himself competing for the race win. I don't have too much doubts in my mind over that claim. He definitely has proven he's got the pace to keep with the top 5. He's got the consistency to keep with the top 3. So that is definitely something to be spoken about in terms of that 61. Had it not been for the case that he's willingly handicapping himself through the majority of the qualifying sessions by starting from the back, he's throwing away potential race wins. And I suppose looking at it now, maybe that's not what he's so interested in. You can definitely make the argument for the 61. It has been a much more satisfying race than for some, as he's found his way from the back to a solid position. More on that though as we're into the final lap. We're still seeing the point of view here from that front row, 2 seconds apart from one another, so close yet so far away between the 89 and the 54 entering their final foray here in Bathurst. The second from last round here in 2025 for VSR Phoenix Season 10 before we head into the winter break, and a much deserved rest for all. Looking around the field just quickly to see where the nearest fights are concerned. Of course, we were speaking earlier about that potential fight for the top 5, and there is still chances for it. They're in for another flying lap here, these two, JDM Grizz and GTR Antion, and now as they find themselves drifting closer and closer to being within a second of one another, the chances still remain there for the 44. But let's get a look on board with Tyler Vermack's point of view of things, as we're currently making our way down through the S's and the Dipper. And this is something I want to draw attention to here, because White Doctor, we've just caught on board with here, is actually in closing range to the number 89. This could be all the way to the wire. We'll stay on board with the leading, for the time being, Mustang of Tyler Vermack. To stay on board here, Vermack not far from the line in the 89. It's been a refreshing new chapter here for Tyler Vermaak, and he's looking not far from his chances of a second race win this season. He'll be continuing to extend the championship mark over White Doctor to up to 13 points heading to Kyalami next week. Down towards the line then, the checkered flag flies here in Australia, and making his way to the checkered flag, Tyler Vermaak wins in the Lands Down Under. An exceptional performance for the 89 today, much to the chagrin of the 55, but Vermaak will revel in his second victory this season. Taking away on what could have been White Doctor's fourth, he'll be taking home his second, opening, of course, the taps up to a 13-point gap heading into Kyalami, where he can continue to stage the fight for the championship lead outright. Still hangs in the balance, very, very close indeed. Watching here as well, we see Bully Boy is on his way down through Forest's Elbow. Also, just to quickly note as well, making his way to the line, commendable performance to get himself to the checkered flag after the hell that he's been through today. Eurofighter to 14th. Now, this has been quite an underrated performance today. Ruthless consistency, clinical performance throughout for the 196. He's outlived his contemporaries inside of that top 10 and has found his way to an excellent result today. Making his way to the chase, he's not far from picking up a podium here in Bathurst, and that is a real title to walk away from, as he is among the premier survivors of this absolutely brutal venue. Into turn 23 we go. Here comes the 196 to the line, and it's third place for Bully Boy. A brilliant performance indeed for the 196. Making his way to the line then, started from the 9th row of the grid, down towards what was plumb last on the grid, then taken by the 420 who started from the pits, not to usurp his command of things. 4th place for the Blue Frog, and that is an easy driver of the day for the number 61. Started towards the back, made his way to the 2nd row. Coming to the line then by such a narrow margin. JDM Grizz into the top 5. A little bit of a clatter there between himself in celebrations alongside the number 1 of GTR Antion, who finishes 6th for Porsche. Region across the line. Oh my goodness. Region across the line and at max speed to the far side. Crash wall out of turn 1. He's 7th at the end of round 6. JDM Otzi in 8th. Chris Davies to the line for 9th place, with JDM Shawnee Mac in the top 10. We'll get the full results in a moment's time. We are still waiting to see, though, a wounded 88. That's VSR Dollar Up, who for love nor money is getting that BMW by looks of things to the end of this race. You can really see he is struggling to keep that car on the track. Just trying to get it now to the checkered flag. Can he do it is the real question, because with what is very evidently damage to his steering, is it even possible here with the car veering so violently for him? And we'll have to see in due course. We can see, though, the full results. Tyler Vermaak wins in Bathurst, with White Doctor in 2nd place by half a second to the checkered flag. Had it been just a little while longer, there could have been that fight for the lead. Bully Boy on an exceptional podium position. He's outlived the competition to put himself in a very competitive position. He's up the road from the Blue Frog, who started from the back to 4th place. JDM Grizz in 5th, with Antion in 6th, Regent 7th, Otzi 8th, Chris Davies in 9th, and Big Green Man in 10th. Shawnee Mac in 11th. And to the line here, we see Dollar Up take the checkered flag for 12th. Fake Galaxy 13th, with Eurofighter in 14th. Smiler in 15th, and there you can see your DNFs, Elite Cassie, Zetu, and Twiglet. Here in round 6, it has been a bit of a brutal round, but at the end of it all, Vermaak takes his 2nd victory of the season and continues his charge forth at the lead of the championship. From where we'll be heading next then into our final stop for 2025, it'll be on December 17th, same time as today. 2 hours of racing and 2 mandatory pit stops. We're back into another double points endurance round, much like what we saw at the opening of this season back at the Nürburgring. We'll be heading to Kyalami for round 7 next week, and that'll be the last one before the end of the 2025 leg of season 10. 5 more rounds to follow in 2026. We'll get on to that discussion when we head to the outskirts of Johannesburg, South Africa next Wednesday. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.